So the topic of this video is Kabam's bounce back. Kabam bounced back like a bouncy ball most, if not all the time. This I think is important to mention because a lot of people get very transfixed on everything's doom and gloom in the world of Marvel Contest Champions and Kabam and gaming in general, that your favourite game may be kind of like on its last legs. I mean, this was interesting. Dr. Crab said that the game, which I don't know what it's called, Final Fantasy War of the Vision, is kind of like ending after 5 years. After 5 years, they've announced they're shutting down. It's a sobering reminder that it can happen at any moment. So I'd like to just say, take a moment, appreciate the game, but also state, please fix the game. I really am rooting for your success. And like that's the thing. People should kind of like not get it twisted. When anybody in the community is kind of trying to give Kabam advice or kind of point him in a direction, it's not in any kind of like, you know, bad intention. We want the game to do well. Do you remember the instances of 2020? You don't? Well, I'll refresh your memory. So back in early 2020, you know, that thing that was going on in the world that was a bit kind of like weird? Fall Guys was popular. Yeah, that's right. So there was a big burnt out and bored situation. Do you remember that? Again, for those that don't remember, because some people's MCC history is always kind of like they don't remember stuff, there was a situation where a lot of us from the player base were feeling burnt out and bored. I'm trying to remember exactly if this was kind of around the Abyss of Legends type area of release, and everybody was just feeling like, oh, they had to do this, they had to do that. Like, there was a lot of stuff that's going on, and as well, like, the boredom was kind of there with it because there was so much to do and so much to keep up to date with. The game kind of reached that point where there was just too much going on. The game became quite bloated, it became quite grindy, and it needed to improve. And that's when Kabam had to do kind of what they're doing now and go, what do we set out to do to improve the game and listen to players? Because we've been here before where Kabam haven't listened to players. And at this particular time, which was, you know, over, well, no, it wasn't over, it was nearly 5 years ago, Kabam was setting up things like back issues, updates to Act 6, which required a lot of reworks to things in order to make it a bit more fairer. Book 2, Chapter 1, so that's Act 7, when that's going to launch. Cavalier difficulty wasn't even released, now it is. And now we're talking about things to improve the just general playthrough. Act 2 rewards for, you know, new summoners to the game. Summer of Pain, which I think was important because that was just, again, just bloating and bleh. Alliance-based stuff and how they set out to kind of improve things from an office perspective. Raids was pitched, I think, very early on. The help all button. I don't think that's... No, maybe in-game, but maybe not as efficient as it should be. Request help all button. That's something that I think we're still yet to see. And there's other stuff as well, like reworks, you know, Magneto, Punish 2029, blah, 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 blah. Wish Crystal became something different than it was nowadays, and the list goes on. Combat contest evolved, sell from stash, that was great, by the way. All this stuff, and like, you know, Kabam have done things to improve the game. Incursions probably needs another revamp. Arena's a bit better than it was. Social progression on pause, I think that's kind of, and solo competitive mode in design, which I think turned out to be more Battlegrounds, if anything. And yeah, so there was a lot. There was a lot of things that Kabam had to do to kind of at least make you feel, and me feel, and everyone feel within the community that they were going somewhere of some kind of direction. And I think that's just it with Kabam. As I've hinted before, I've said before, like Kabam reached a point where they, I'm not saying they lack any direction, but the direction that they go in seems to be like away from what aligns itself with the community. Yes, trying to make a game that appeases everybody at different types of progressions, it is not exactly an easy process, but at the same time they have to at least try, because, well, otherwise if I didn't try, then what's the point of developing a game? In the future months between that particular post and when they delivered stuff, if you remember, I used to cover the Dev Diary performance, and this is actually a thumbnail from one of the videos, where I would look at, well, what's actually been developed and what hadn't been. And to the very early start point of 2022, we weren't seeing anything developed and delivered, and that was kind of scary. And maybe that was a knock-on effect from COVID, but also at the back of COVID was the kind of gaming boom. The gaming boom seemed to happen from 2021 and then kind of went a bit in 2023. I was affected by that, unfortunately. But it was very real. It's a very real case. Again, if you want people to enjoy the game and keep enjoying the game, then things have got to be done, things have got to be developed, and things have got to be improved. And the player base should be, in a lot of cases, listened to if you want a game to continue on. Some people will say no. Games developers will say no to that. But hey, we're the ones playing your game. The Helldivers 2 situation is one of those ones that kind of like community stood up to kind of like say, look, you need to not go this way that Sony want us to do. Even the developer was kind of like, no, I don't want to go this direction. But it was very much driven by, I think, Sony with how you log into that particular game. And Helldivers 2 was one of the most popular shooter games of 2024. So it just puts into perspective, look, if you piss off your fandom, player base, or whatever, then there is a good chance that like you'll do irreparable damage, and it's not just the damage you're kind of playing around with from, oh, Netmarble are going to lose a bit of money. It's like, no, people are going to lose their job because the game isn't going to be as profitable because people are pissed off that play your game and spend the money on it. So yes, Kabam have this very kind of, well, admirable habit to bounce back. I know that Kabam Crash does take a lot of this stuff very seriously. He wants to, well, not he wants to, but there are people that at Kabam want to, I believe, steer the game in a direction that they think is going to be good for business, but also good for the, and I wouldn't say economy, because I think now Kabam is shifting a lot. There's, especially in the recent like month of shifting stuff. I felt that Kabam out of like, or going into 2025, based on the things that weren't answered in 2024, became a little bit complacent. Now, Kabam may have been developing stuff behind the scenes, but the biggest issue is communication, transparency, and getting a bit of hype for this year. And I'm not saying that they had to do that. I just feel that it was needed. I felt this kind of like, I don't know, uncomfortable air about 2025 starting off, because I was looking at it and going, there's so much spending deals that have happened all of a sudden. There's so many new pieces of endgame content and Everest content to do. It's feeling like there is a bit woeful in some of the places that are key fundamentals. Gameplay, fighting, the Nightmare raids, I think, is another kind of like sort of endgame Everest type thing that was added, that was poorly added. And I just like, it's good ideas. It's just they're not executed in a good way. And what we said was, and what seems to be good is like Kabam are like they're bouncing back. They're trying to bounce back, and I think they will. They've done it in the past, and that's if you say to yourself, Kabam never bounce back for these things, they do. Right? This here is good, like showcase of that. They may not do it in year one. They may not do it in year 2. It may be 3 years to get there, but they're definitely a lot faster than they were in 2020. 2020 was very slow. You can look at the stuff if they said, like, I think it was like Alliance Quest raids took about 3 years or 4 years to properly get to the game, from the point of it being conceived as one of these like little things right here. I'm actually trying to find where it is. But everything they set up to do didn't really kind of come in until 2023. 2023 is when it's like, here's everything. It became live. There is stuff, like I actually found my my spreadsheet on it. There is stuff that I do feel has not been added, and stuff that Kabam have kind of gone away from, like Variant 9, gone. Like that's not going to happen. Or Back Issues 9. Stuff like the Grandmaster Gauntlet, that's there. I don't know why it's red. Maybe there was some reason. Maybe it was just because it was taken away for a limited time and taken back. Because I haven't updated this in nearly 3 years. You can see why. Map 8, yeah, that came in. And AQ Raids did come in as well. Social progression, I don't know. Maybe there's stuff to kind of more come to it. Champion buffs, yeah, that's rebalances, reworks. They've come in a bit more. Maybe that's for another video. We can look at like what champions have been reworked. But the biggest problem with reworking a champion is within about, I don't know, X amount of time, it's then needs to be reworked again because it falls out of line of, current metas or damage potential it can actually reach. It's not foolproof. It's not future proof. Final thoughts I want to leave with is, number one, Kabam bounce back. They've bounced back before from any kind of like stuff like this kind of talk of boycotts, the talk of things going, people unhappy. And Kabam's, I don't know, the way they kind of like structure things, or they kind of take the community on this wacky ride. I think it's always important to be reined in. I know that Kabam have great ideas. I know they don't, most of the time, don't listen to the player base with certain matters, or, they're taking feedback, but maybe the game team goes, no. Or maybe yes, because, hey, we reach a wall. It's like the player base reached a wall. Game modes need to be updated. Then rewards for game modes need to be updated. Quality of life needs to be improved. Farming things in game and grinding for them needs to improve. I think we all know that. And the fights and fighting elements, how the AI works, how certain champions being changed in size can result in dexterity and medium and whiffing, whiffing issues. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and check out the AQ Raids compensation video and you'll find out exactly about that. And we've showcased plenty of that. These things shouldn't happen. They really shouldn't, especially for the game that's been kind of going for as long as it is. So in some ways, I'm pretty certain Kabam are taking this as great feedback from the community. They are taking it incredibly seriously, and Kabam will bounce back. So I get why people are kind of like leaving the game, and that's cool. Like, of course, it's not great to keep like player retention, but I think it's just understanding what's not been working for Kabam, what's not been working for the player base, and making sure they align with us or get an idea of what are people got problems with, and giving us a perspective of when can we see improvements. And this is the thing about ending on a positive. We're busy working on changes I listed, and we'll have more news obviously before season 28 about Battlegrounds. We also know that there's a lot of clarity needed for plans outside of Battlegrounds. So we're working on putting that information together. It's just giving that to the community and the players this hope that the developer is listening, one. The developer is acting on improving things, two. And three, we can bounce back with just a hopefully, well, use the word hope, better situation ongoing with the contest, which I'm pretty certain Kabam will get there, but it won't be today, it won't be tomorrow, it's not even going to be next week. It will take months, but they'll get to a point where things will just be back to normal, back to feeling that we can just get on and do stuff without feeling grind is and time and frustration and rewards not being there for what you go and play. And also the fighting needs to improve. After 60 frames per second, the game felt quite good, but then it felt quite crap. Because whatever you do, whatever Kabam do, if they change stuff, like, it does affect other areas, and that's not great, is it? Anyway, signing off on Sunday, optimistic, looking forward to the future and what Kabam have got to offer the community. But what do you think? Do you think everything is redeemable? Not redeemable? Have you had enough? Are you want to hear a proposition? Thoughts, as always, with yourselves, your lovely selves, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.